Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm super excited to record this episode. It was actually really fun to plan this episode specifically because I do this often, but I haven't done this in a while, where I will look back and think about the things that I learned and how I grew. And I used to do this a lot in school. Every year, every quarter/semester, I would write a list of things or just kind of recap that time period. And for 23 years, I definitely learned a lot of things. It was a little bit of not an ego boost, but it made me feel a lot better about myself because it made me realize that I have come a long way and that I've experienced a hell of a lot and I should be proud of myself. And so if you're ever in a place where you're like, damn, I'm feeling not too hot about myself and what I've done in my life, I would highly recommend doing this. Starting with the high-low buffalo, just to be a little bit lighter. For the high, so I had a bunch of tattoo appointments the past 2 weeks, which I purposely, planned. And so I met a lot of really cool tattoo artists. This is part of the process that not a lot of people talk about, but I really enjoy. You spend a lot of time with your tattoo artist, a couple hours, and you kind of either awkwardly stand there, which usually doesn't happen, or you have conversation with them. And it's really important to me, at least, that I like the person who is tattooing me and that I get along with the person who's tattooing me. So I've been really lucky and I met 2 tattoo artists this past 2 weeks, which were so sweet. They were artists, which was really cool. And something that I haven't really talked about is how even though I do a lot of creative work in terms of like artwork in specific fields, I actually do a lot of it solo and I'm very independent, very alone in my own world doing these things. I don't kind of put myself out there and meet people, which I think I should. I really, really should. It's just something I haven't put my energy towards. Through these tattoo appointments, coincidentally, I met 2 artists and they were super, super talented and they were knowledgeable about parts of the art world that I wasn't aware of. And it was really interesting to hear about the corruption and how profit driven a lot of the museums are and galleries are. And then also just hearing their perspectives and what they get inspired by and what they think as they're creating the work. And then for my low, it's related to the tattoos. So if you've never gotten a tattoo, I will give some background. But whenever you are putting down a payment for a tattoo, you usually put a deposit beforehand to lock down your appointment. And this is not for every single artist, but most artists will ask you to put down a deposit. And I put down a $50 deposit for one of my appointments and I completely forgot that I had done that. And so when I went to go pay for my tattoo, I paid for it, not remembering that I had done that. And I paid way too much. I mean, I paid the full amount, the tip, and I forgot that I put down $50. I'm not rich out here. So $50 is a lot. $50 can buy me maybe 3 meals in New York. And so it's okay. I learned my lesson. I won't do it again. I need to really get in my own head and be on top of being more present because recently I've really just been so brain fogged and that's just a wake-up call. So I'm taking it like that. I'm not going to beat myself down too much about it. I'm just going to move on and do better. Okay, for my buffalo, this is a super weird thing that I had to deal with ever since I graduated from school. It is dealing with and choosing your insurance plans. I'm very grateful. Through my company, I have insurance And every year you have to register the plans that you would like. Doing this is just really a lot more complicated and like confusing, in my opinion. It's weird that you pay a company to make sure that you don't have to pay as much for your health care, whatnot. But it's also like kind of scary because they know who in this world has a really good plan and who doesn't have a good plan. So for the people who don't have good plans, I feel like they could really take advantage of it and like do some like messed up crap to people. I don't know if you see what I'm getting at. I'm trying to beat around the bush without like hitting it right on the nail on purpose because it's so messed up. I don't even want to say it. But I was thinking about this and it's probably me being very cynical, but it's kind of scary. And I was thinking about it. It's also just so confusing. It's a lot of reading to do, a lot of like weighing out, like, am I gonna get sick this year? Will I get hit by a car this year? Like all these things. Like it's weird for me to put down money thinking that it could happen, which it could happen, but it's like, it must be more likely than I would expect, I guess, in order for me to pay so much money every single month. And I've been doing it, and this is my second time now, and it just reminded me about how weird it was. But yeah, adulting things. Okay, moving into the topic, which is 23 things I learned in 23 years of living on this earth. The first of the 23 things that I've learned is to get things in writing. If it's not in writing, it's not going to happen. And I learned this the hard way, painfully. I had bosses promise me equity from the firm. I've had bosses promise me promotion. I've had so many things promised to me, and I'd be like, oh, just because they said it, it's going to happen. But no, honey, that is literally not the case in the real world. I had to learn it the hard way, like I said. And so when I say to get things in writing, I don't mean you just need to ask them directly for what they are saying on paper. That's not what I mean. I mean, get it in a contract, get it signed, have screenshots, have a recording of them saying it, something. You just need to keep your receipts, some tangible piece of evidence, so that at the end of the day, you have something backing your stance and your reasoning, because people can easily just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I forgot I even said that, or things have changed. Somebody's word means literally nothing in court. And this is not in any order. I literally just wrote them down as they came up in my mind. High school drama actually never just stays in high school. It never ends. The drama will follow you, whether it is in the workplace, in your family. The huge lesson for me was that everyone has family problems. Everyone has their own family drama to deal with. And not a lot of people talk about it, but just because no one says anything about it doesn't mean it's not happening behind closed doors. And so even if you see some type of family look extremely perfect and put together, you are just missing out on the real tea and what's really going on. And I learned this after a while because I decided to stay very private with my family matters. And it wasn't until a few times where I decided to talk about it with a few friends that I realized, damn, like I thought I had it bad, but actually everyone has it at this same exact level or even worse than I do, which I'm grateful for. For some reason, adults never grow out of it, and they just love gossiping. The third thing that I've learned is that most people don't think or do things like you. I met so many people once I went to a larger college, which I'm very grateful for because it really opened my eyes. I couldn't believe that even though I went to a pretty good school, there were students that were just so different in the way that they lived, the way that they handled themselves, their manners, their basic hygiene, like so different. And it's not realistic to expect everyone around you or most people around you to think like you. That's very naive and just not gonna happen. The fourth thing that I learned is that recycling is a scam. And this was a huge thing that I learned in college. I took a course about the planet, environment, things like that. This was literally the first lesson where I learned that recycling makes people feel better and that they're making an impact. And yes, there are some good things to come out of recycling, but it's not as foolproof and as successful and as efficient as everyone thinks it is. Actually, most things that go through recycling don't actually get recycled. And if you don't properly clean out your containers, for example, and some of the, liquid or like whatever was in that container, oil, whatever it was, if it coats another item, it immediately contaminates the item. So it no longer can be recycled because the only things that can be recycled are like the pure form of the material. If you print out certain types of ink onto paper and onto wrapping, it will taint it and it will keep it from being recycled. So the ink itself has to be recyclable. Oh my God, there's just so much to this. There's not a lot of statistics or there's not anyone doing a good job of tracking, doing research on how effective and how efficient and what is actually going on behind closed doors in these recycling plants. And so when people are saying, oh yeah, recycling is doing good for the earth, we actually have no idea if that's true. It's really depressing. And after I found out, I was like, this is crazy. I just will never recycle anymore. But actually, I do still recycle because some good impact is better than nothing. And I cannot believe that my professor who was teaching this class all these things every single year was still smiling and doing okay because he taught us some seriously depressing but realistic and true things going on in this world. The fifth thing that I learned is that if you ever are really overwhelmed by a problem and feel like you'll never be able to solve it and that it's just too much, just remember that everything can be broken down into smaller pieces so that it's easier to digest and address. And this has helped me a lot because I get really overwhelmed easily by a lot of stimulus, just big problems, like very complex problems. But if you just break it down and take it one step at a time and just focus on the problem in front of you and just get that small bit of the problem completed and then move on to the next part, it'll help you kind of detangle the big mess in front of you. And you'll realize that the big problem isn't actually that big and it's actually pretty easy to solve once you figure out what it's made out of. And the next thing that I learned is more personal, but I learned that it isn't my fault that my parents are divorced. I think this was a thought and feeling that I had from just different family members speaking to me, and I know they probably meant well, but it got in my head somehow that it was my fault and that it was my responsibility that they get back together. And so I had to learn that that is actually not the case and it is not my fault. The next thing is that happiness is not the goal. I talked about this in my YouTube video where I did a mini vlog of my birthday. But happiness isn't the goal. And I've always thought of that as what I'm trying to achieve. I've always wanted to be happy. But that really isn't the goal anymore for me. And now it's become being able to be prepared and open and accepting to the journey ahead of me and whatever is in store for me. I think that is way more realistic, and remembering that all of life, this is so cliche, this is so cheesy, but I think it's so easy to forget the cheesy cliche things because we overlook it, when in reality, that's actually the root. But life is literally a journey. It's going to have its high highs, low lows, and that's all part of it. So it's not bad or good if you're in a high. It's not bad or good if you're in a low. It's just how it should be. So you need to have highs so that you can have lows. You need to have lows so you can have highs. And if you didn't have either, then you would just be completely stagnant and neutral, and there wouldn't be anything special, and life would be boring and mundane. The next thing that I learned is that everything is predetermined. And my little younger self used to be a firm believer that I had full control over my entire path and life. I believed that everyone was responsible. All of the weight was on each person's shoulders, on how their life turned out, on how they lived out their day to day. And then I went a complete 180 and still believe today everything is predetermined. And I think this because I took a philosophy class. And the whole class was literally on whether or not life was predetermined or if we actually have free will. And I'm not going to go into too many details, but I learned your whole path is already predetermined and you just take it as you will. The ninth thing that I've learned is that you can develop and lose allergies throughout your life. Crazy. Mind blown. I literally did not know how much your body changes in general throughout your life. Whether it is how you metabolize your food to how much your body changes through puberty. Allergies is also another thing. I used to be able to drink soy milk, and then I developed a soy milk allergy. I used to be allergic to grass, so I would literally touch grass, and I don't mean figuratively. When I would literally touch grass, I would break out in insane hives all over my body. And now I can roll in grass and I'll get the sniffles once in a while, but besides that, I'm pretty good. I used to not be allergic to apples, and then I got allergic to apples, and now I'm not allergic to apples. Just a crazy thing. Your bodies are crazy. The 10th thing that I learned is that saying bad words is super helpful with helping you explain a wider range of emotions. So I didn't cuss for a really long time until junior year of college. I started cussing, and it's just allowed me to explain myself way better. Like, there's a level of emotion that I feel that I just could not explain unless I used bad words. I think it just added that little oomph to my explanation so that people really got how I was feeling. I haven't looked back since. The 11th thing that I've learned is that time and energy is a currency in its own form. And I think we take that super duper for granted. That did not make any sense. That was not even grammatically correct, what I just said. It is one of the few things you cannot recreate. You cannot get it back once you use it up. It's not like money where we can just keep printing it. It circulates. It will come back to you one way or another. It's so hard to put a price on that. The 12th thing that I learned is that no one thinks about yourself more than you do. If you need the attention, it's not that great. But if you don't want the attention and you kind of want to disappear a little bit, don't worry. You don't need to do much because people are really just thinking about themselves more than they think about you. All the little things that you notice about yourself, most people don't notice it and could care less. And if they do notice it, they usually forget pretty fast. The 13th thing that I learned is that you don't always have to do things with someone else. I was that middle schooler, that elementary school kid that was always with a friend. Not because I was popular, but because I literally would not do anything without a friend. I always had to ask someone to go with me to the restroom, to go with me to wait in line. I got out of that habit and that insecurity of being alone and thinking that being alone is weird. And now I freaking love it. I love being alone, walking alone, doing anything alone, doing things you normally would do with friends, a date, family, whatever, alone. So good, so fun. The 14th thing that I learned is that if you never ask, you'll never get it. And this is something my mom should literally tattoo on her forehead because she says this like every day. 99.9% of people cannot read your mind. And if you don't say anything, if you don't ask, then you won't get it because the person doesn't know you want it. And also, the worst thing that could happen from asking for what you want is that you get a no. 15th thing that I learned is don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. You are going to hate yourself if you do that. I hate myself when I do that because when I do, I I buy way too many groceries and who's gonna freaking eat it? And in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, like I want dessert. So I start walking through the dessert aisle, the candy aisle, the snack aisle, and I'm like, wow, all that chocolate looks super good. And so I start buying the chocolate. When I get home and I'm unloading my groceries, I'm looking at everything and I'm like, why did I get that? Like, I don't actually want it. I only wanted it in that moment because I was hungry. Most likely, unless you have insane self-control, you'll most likely spend more money. You'll buy things that you don't really need if you're hungry when you go grocery shopping. The 16th thing that I've learned is that there's people for everyone. And this is me observing certain people in my life. And I'm just going to be completely honest. I've seen so many people that are just so unique and just so themselves find other people that are just like them. I realized, damn, there's literally somebody for everyone. That is the most comforting thing. The 17th thing that I've learned is don't look at the mirror if you're feeling insecure. You'll thank me later. Just try your best to turn around when you're standing in front of a mirror, cover that freaking mirror, whatever you need to do. Don't look at it. And you won't know what you look like when you step outside. You have nothing to say because you haven't seen yourself. And I can almost guarantee it will work because it has worked wonders for me. I went through a period, and it's not even just one day. This was like a whole period of time where I was just very hypercritical. I just didn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. And after that, I could not remember or just fathom or understand what I looked like to other people. And because I didn't have that perception in my head, I just completely lost insecurity. The 18th thing is your needs are just as important as your loved ones. This one has been huge. I'm still learning this one. A lot of times I will put other people's needs in front of mine, even if it is damaging and painful and more hurtful for me. And I really should not do that because it's all a balance. There is times to do that, and there are times to put yourself first. I like to think about this in this way where when my friends or family members voice out very clearly what their needs are, regardless of what other people will think and say, I never think to myself like, oh my gosh, why would she ask for that? I've never thought, oh, she's a burden. And for some reason, when it comes to me, I think, oh, I can't say what I want. I don't want to give my opinion because what if people disagree? What if it causes conflict? What if I I'm a burden, like whatever. But no one's gonna think of that. And if somebody does, you should just get them out of your life. The 19th thing that I learned is don't talk about weight. I've said this a million times, and because I have, it's obviously something that I learned. I used to do it once in a while, not so much, but I used to do it and not realize how bad it was and how damaging and painful it can be. And after realizing it myself, because I went through a period where it was painful to talk about weight, I realized you never know who's going through it. Don't play your chances and just never comment about weight, whether it is a good comment or a bad comment. The 20th thing that I learned is something that I learned about myself, and it is that even though I'm an introvert, I love hosting. I love it. I love it. It is so fulfilling for me and just makes me so happy to see other people enjoy something that I knew I put effort in, and just getting people all together in one place. Just nothing better than that. And the 21st thing that I learned is that if you're in a rut, if something is going on in your life that just isn't that great, there's 3 things that you could do that will probably fix it. This will most likely fix it. First is to walk. The second is to take a shower. And the third is to drink water. If you have a headache, try one of these things. If you're feeling sluggish, you had a bad day at work, take a walk. It'll clear your mind. Even if it takes me a really long time to muster the energy and the willpower to walk, to take a shower, to drink the water, even if it takes me an hour, I have always never regretted doing one of these 3 things. The 22nd thing that I've learned is that I think like the biggest thing that I want out of the people that I surround myself with is people who are considerate. I think that is not the number one trait, but that is one of the most important traits. And finally, the 23rd thing that I learned, and again, this is not in any particular order. I'm literally just reading it from a list that I created. So cheesy, but again, the cheesy stuff is always forgotten and overlooked. It's obviously a cliche and oversaid for a reason, because it's just so true, and it is a timeless saying. And it is that literally all anybody wants, all that anyone is striving for, it really just comes down to feeling loved, to giving love. If you look at all these companies, they have a mission. No matter how corrupt the company is, there's a mission statement behind every company. And the mission statement, it comes from a good place, and it comes from a place of love. Why do people feel so good when they volunteer, when they do all these things for other people, for their people that they love in their life? When people are going through rough patches, when they feel like they're just not satisfied, when they're just in a rut, it's because they don't have enough love in their life to support them and to make them feel satisfied. And it's not just external love, but it's also internal love, like love for yourself. If you are not giving yourself the love that you need and acceptance, you're depriving yourself of a lot. Because of that, you'll never feel satisfied. Everything that comes into your life, everything that you experience, material things that you buy for yourself, you'll never have enough. I'm laughing because it is so cheesy, but at the same time, I don't take it back. I literally fully believe it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Yeah, this one's just a really special one. This is something that I would normally write in my journal, so it is very personal to me. And yeah,